How
Mhm.
would you solve the Tower of Babel problem today? Would you try to get everybody to speak Esperanto? Or you would collect them to Google Translate and make an LLM work? Just stay where you are, keep using your drawings, because now we have a technology that can read the drawing, can read the contract and say, hey, they don't match. You need to go and fix this bit. Now, is that not a magical moment for
That
an
is.
industry when a technology suddenly works for them? We are given a new concrete. We're given a new steel. Remember, last time the built environment really changed was Brunel, right? We got steel and we could go up. We got electricity and we could light our spaces. We
Mm.
now have silicon and we could really start serving our society or customer or communities better.
We built entire cities with pen, paper, and PDFs. Try to run BMW on PDFs, and I don't think you'd get the same product output. That's today's guest, and his point isn't that construction is broken, it's that it's a miracle that the industry has got this far with the tools that it has. The question now is what happens when it finally gets better ones. I'm Owen Drury, and this is Bricks and Bytes, and today I'm joined by Alain Waha, Chief Technological Officer at Buro Happold, a global engineering firm with 3,500 people, 30 plus offices worldwide, and working on some of the most complex buildings and infrastructure on the planet. Alain calls it the Tower of Babel problem. 90% of construction firms have fewer than 50 people. Every project is a temporary coalition, dozens of companies, different trades, different software, different languages, all trying to build something together, then dissolving when it's done. For decades, the answer was force everyone onto one universal system. It never worked. It was never going to work. And then large language models showed up. And instead of asking the industry to change how it works, the technology just met it where it already was. That's what we're unpacking today. Why AI might be the first technology that actually works for construction rather than against it. Okay, Alan, I think this is the first time you and I have interacted via video call before. I think last year, nearly every event that I went to, you were there, and that includes me and you first off in Nashville, which I suppose is kind of strange because we're both based in the UK, but that's how these things happen. And a few events in London, and each time we had some interesting conversations. So I hope we can pick up on a few of those conversations here today. And looking forward to diving into this with you.
Likewise, and Nashville feels such a long time ago. It was September, which is like another era.
Oh yeah. Okay. Look, I won't steal your line then. So, we wanted to caveat this discussion by saying, like, what we say now is being recorded on the 27th of February, 2026, 2:15 p.m. GMT. And the reason we say that is because the world is moving so damn quickly that maybe what you say now is going to be irrelevant in just an hour's time. So maybe you should tell people about like where we are currently in the calendar year and why they're significant.
Yes, I think the significance is week 9, and it feels like we've already had 3 years in those 9 weeks. It's just been so fast. And I think it's really interesting. We've been saying this is exponential, an exponential era, and that things move, slowly, and then suddenly. And I think now we are really in the suddenly, possibly inevitably, era. And yeah, look at what happened the first 9 weeks of this year.
Yeah, crazy. You said that to me before we started recording, and when I thought about it, I was like, oh, yeah, actually, yeah, it's 9 weeks. It feels like a lifetime has gone past in the last since the start of this year, and how everything is rapidly advancing. Okay, Alan. So yeah, you're chief technological officer at Buro Happold. What does that mean? Like, what does that role entail? What do you do?
I think I'm part of a team that makes sure we capitalize on technology. And so I think you interviewed Mark or COO, and looks very much at operationalization, making sure that we are good business and operate efficiently. We also have a IT director, CIO, and he really looks at the infrastructure and at our business stack and resilience and cloud provision, etc., network provision. So that's a huge work. And we also have, because we're a design company, we have a design technology lead, Al, And so that means that we have quite a good senior team working on technology now. And then alongside that, we also have a futures program where we're looking a little bit further out about the industry in general, and then what technology impacts that future or
Mhm.
accelerate that future at the moment. So the role is more defined as, a persona in that team, and then I specifically look at our AI transformation. I specifically like to work with the external technology vendor, be it the big strategic Autodesk, but also all the super innovative startups that we have in our ecosystem, and make sure that that then gets deployed usefully into our projects.
Very cool. Can you give us an idea of the scale of your Happold? Like what kind of projects? Do you know the rough size of the top of your head? Mm.
So Buro Happold, we are a big small firm. So 3,500 roughly, still growing and global, from offices in Hong Kong all the way to Los Angeles, with really the founding office here in the UK. And so at 3,500, it means we're not one of the giants, the ACOMs, etc. We're not also a small boutique office. So it's a nice size. It's a nice size because of partnership. There are now 100 partners that have grown that business. And so it's very human size as well, because with 3,500 distributed in more than 30 offices and covering more than 25 disciplines, that means that actually each of the group in each of the geography becomes really, people size. We don't have huge groups of 2,500 that do this. We are all very human scale. And of course, in terms of technology, that will, and we can touch on that later, means that we're quite granular and it's quite exciting. And in terms of design, it also means that we can work with a lot of collaborators from very big design firms, Foster's or Gensler or Big, to smaller architectural firm attempting different things. Or we have partners working with sculptures because they need their sculpture to be engineered.
Hmm.
And we work with city planners and we have economists. And ultimately, what binds Edinburgh Happold together, and it is relevant to technology, is this idea that the built environment requires the engineering mind to be curious and make it better. And so we try to attract, thinkers that are wanting to make the built environment better. And if I link that to technology immediately, if you if that's your purpose and the built environment is really complicated, then you're going to use technology. You're going to use technology because to deal with that complexity, it, you're gonna need to at least bring it in and sometime invent it. And from day one, that's what the Buro Happold partners have done, and that's why it's such a exciting role for me. When I met them, I felt at home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. That's good to hear. Okay. What like okay, fine. As a CTO of like an organization like Buro Happold though, what are you thinking about right now? I mean, there's so much going on. Like, are you able to even rationalize the thoughts and like the process and have a structure about how you're going about these things?
Yes, I think that things are moving really quickly, but there are some constants, right? So what we do know, and what we've always had in our culture, is to adopt technology. And so, if anything, this exponential technology, this acceleration, means that that's actually more valuable than it was before, because the human is going to be more augmented. So, as a firm of humans that has bet that being good at using technology is a good bet. It's allow me to do great things. Then, as this technology become more and more powerful, that's a great position to find yourself. So we really need to cultivate that that spirit of experimentation, and and be a learning organization in terms of how to mobilize technology. And of course, the bigger you become and the faster it goes, and the more opportunity arise, then it becomes harder. But the fundamentals are: is everybody clear that using technology is going to make a positive difference for what they do at Bureau?
Yeah, very good. So, like having the so it sounds like what you're describing is the foundations are there for like a technology adaptation. And if the good foundations are in place, and maybe this is a sentiment, it could be for the conversation today, then you can really benefit from when things do start to speed up and should we say exponential? I don't know.
Well, they are exponential. I think what we are learning is that they're now inevitable. So you could ignore technology, right? So in the 1970s, people said like, "Oh, we're gonna need two computers in North America," right? That was the estimate of IBM, right? And then somebody said, "Oh, we're gonna put the computer on every desk," and everybody looked around and said, "You're mad," and he turned out to be right? And then everybody's gonna go on the internet, and people were the internet. What was the internet? And then the browser happens, and then people in the late 90s go, "You know what? Retail is gonna go on the internet," and everybody goes, "You're mad. What's wrong with the next catalog or a good Argos catalog? I want to touch it.
Oh, I love
I
that.
want to
Yeah.
buy the CD, right?" And you go, "No, no, no. Everything is gonna go on the internet." And they look at you and they think they're crazy. And then the bubble burst, the internet bubble, in 2000, 2001, and they say, "I
Hmm.
told you so. I told you that retail would never go, and especially not clothes, and especially not fresh food." And of course, we know the rest. So that inevitability is not quite clear exactly what's going to work, but that change is afoot. And then we say, it's exponential, and we keep on telling ourselves it's exponential, and we keep on telling ourselves inevitably it will happen. And and then we forget that we just said that, and and then the LLMs happen, and then agent happens, and then coding gets accelerated, and suddenly they go like, "Oh yeah, no,
Ah.
it's exponential, it's inevitable." It's exciting.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's through the next wave. It makes me want to try and think of what the next wave and the next wave and the next wave might be. But I think at this stage of where we're at, it's impossible to tell. But yeah, how have you seen things change?
Yeah, so this is my third career. I came to this industry in 2006. So my experience with technology was creating low power chips in the 1990s. And, the idea that every car would have a GPS was insane. Like yeah, I had a GPS because I'm a sailor. The idea that you would route your destination in, PC had auto routes, and that was my second career. It's was in the automotive industry, um, and like, essentially everybody would tell you Google Maps will never exist, um, and you were running, PC auto route on the desktop, and then I come to this industry, and we are drafting in AutoCAD, and we say, "No, we're going to do digital construction," and people said, "No, this is never going to happen." And now we're just seeing systems becoming more connected. We're seeing companies that are managing to manufacture buildings. We are managing to get computers that optimize and compute deliveries, or track the progress of the build, or in the case of Buro Happold, computationally optimize the envelope and the program. And so, it is inevitable, and I'm seeing it happen every day. When Dev at Plan started working on planning, people would say, "Yeah, it's impossible to," and no, it's inevitable.
It's gonna
So
happen.
so so I think that we're still at the very beginning, and we are seeing now some breakthrough technologies for the built environment that are really surfacing very, very quickly now, and that's very exciting.
Yeah. Any what out of those breakthrough technologies excites you? Or like what are we seeing?
So I think the first big breakthrough for us is to think about, like, as an engineering firm, is to think about how we augment the human, and how we use the technology. If we think about AI, I imagine, although that we are building on top of, and I'll come back to that. Um, the the humans spend a lot of time not engineering, right? And and I think that that's giving the time back to the human to actually consider the problem with more information, and having more time to understand the problem. You remember that famous quote, of Einstein, that says, if you give me an hour to solve a problem, I will spend 59 minutes understanding the problem. And I think that really, that that technology that we've got really helps us, and it helps us for a very simple reason, is that we are still very much a document centric industry. And so, unlike banking, or retail, that are fully digitized and have their information in databases and fixed ontologies, and they've invested millions to put in place systems that hold and manage this information, and you can analyze. We're in drawings, we're in
Mm.
PDFs, we're in emails. And um, the big idea was we're going to digitize. And the big idea since day one was, we're going to create the master ontology. And then we're going to get the whole industry, the largest industry on earth, to all speak the same language, that one unique ontology. Um, and it's not worked.
Mhm.
We're still the least digitized industry. And, it's quite it's quite fundamentally interesting that when they tried to explain this, they always came back to the Tower of Babel. And they always came back to say the problem of the Tower of Babel is became so big, and our industry is that big, that people stop being able to, and then we hear is siloed, etc. Right? How
Mhm.
would you solve the Tower of Babel problem today? Would you try to get everybody to speak Esperanto, or you would collect them to Google Translate and make an LLM work?
Mhm.
So we have invented the technology that we needed to build the Tower of Babel.
Mm.
And that's a very exciting moment, because all the other industries, the digitized one, they've figured out their unique language, and it's all been about, regression testing of integration, enterprise system, and all that, which is a very nice theory, but does not work for our industry. We're distributed, we're an ecosystem. 90% of all companies are less than 50. Who is going to invest in an ERP that integrates into 100 tier two and into 50 tier ones? It's just never going to happen. But apparently, that's how we're going to do. We're going to digitize. And then suddenly we say, no, no, you don't need to do that. Just stay where you are. Keep using your drawings, because now we have a technology that can read the drawing, can read the contract and say, hey, they don't match. You need to go and fix this bit. Now, is that not a magical moment for
That
an
is.
industry when a technology suddenly works for them? That is that's fundamental. And I don't think we think and talk enough about it. We've said it's exponential. We said we're siloed. We said we are low digitization. What if this technology allowed us to digitize the
Mm.
promised land?
Mm, this is very smart. Like, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone, and we speak to a lot of smart people in Bricks and Bytes that has put it like that. Thinking about now that we have a way that people are like we've unlocked something because there's a technology that allows, I suppose, effective what you're saying, to documentation to speak to it, not itself, but
We
become.
had this, yeah, we had this vision that, the way human builds needed to be moved into the way computer thinks, and now
Hmm.
we've actually created technology that approximate how human can think and read. And so it's really interesting, right? So I know you have the guys from DataGrid on the program, and we worked very early with them because they were building really interesting tool for our industry around. It's an agent.
Mhm.
It understands the concepts that we need a foundational model to understand. And then these agents with those skills that they've built will then look at our data as it is. Now we have a lot of semantic data in Buro Happold. Very early on, we went fully digital design representation, we went computation engineering, etc. But even then, with our director of design technology, Al, we wanted to link the design report and the base of design with the drawings and the equation and the compute and the model. And, you can do it once, but you can't
Mhm.
do that with 1,000 projects running in parallel. It's just too hard. Um, and here we suddenly says like, okay, just the, find the design report and the base of design and the analytics model related to this drawing, this structure, this HVAC system in
Mhm.
in this model or the derivative of the model we call the drawing. And it goes and finds it. It would have taken a human 3, 4, 5 hours to get all that information ready. Back to being engineers. It's fantastic.
Yeah. What does this all mean then? What does this unlock for the industry, humanity, engineers, you?
And I think we reason about it that what does it mean now with what we can see and we can already touch and what might be the future. So just in terms of what it means now, we can see that it's at the same time a way to um, augment the human, win back some time, have more time to think. Um, you then have to decide how to use that time. And I think that's very important. That's
Mhm.
what we're learning, certainly in the last 6 months, from going from, oh, it might work, or it's working, so I'm saving time. Okay, what do I do with this time? Do I do even more? No, I'm gonna get a cognitive overload. I need to actually use that time really carefully to really answer the question better, because we want the client wanted the best answer in a given time, but the best answer. Now I've got more time. I should be still sticking to let's get the best answer. Let's be very critical about it. And so that's what it means now. And it should mean better answer, more considered answer. Um, in terms of the humans, we are really under incredible commercial and time pressure. So it should mean we can um, we can get a little bit more time back and be a little bit more mindful and be a bit more human. And I think our clients appreciate that because it means we have more time with them, more time to understand their problem better. I think that's the central theme of now. And I think in that conversation, in that journey, we have a further, I think something that really is top of mind to everyone, I think, is how do I use this machinery that is statistical, right? So it's confidently gives you the most probably correct
Yes.
answer. Okay,
Probabilistic out AI. Yeah.
probabilistic, right? It's a
Mhm.
probabilistic system with a softmax.
Mhm.
It's it means that the human um, has to be able to mark the answer.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
human needs to have the space and the time, not the pressure, to mark the answer. I've got a set of words. Do I send that? No, I have to read it, correct it, mark it. And however good it is, and it's getting better, I think, is this what I want to say? It's created
Mhm.
an email. Is this what you want to say? And the temptation is going to be incredible, right? To press send.
Mhm.
So, you really need to learn, and understand. And how do we develop those skills? Because remember, we just said it's probabilistic. So it's not just a question of,
Mhm.
well, I've lost my sense of direction, but Google gets me there. And most of the errors in Google have been erased, and then Waze captures a few more. So, I mean, the chances of getting lost with Google are
Near
infinitesimally
zero.
small, but
Yeah.
not with this system. This is a probabilistic system.
Love it. People should definitely listen to this because It's actually not spoken about that much, this idea of the probabilistic system and what
So
that means.
I think that, you know, you have people that want to dismiss it, or that say, or that those that say it won't work. And I think we need to be the other side and say, no, it inevitably is going to augment us. Well, we have to develop a completely new set of skills as humans.
Mm,
Um, I was in a workshop around, the evolution of programming, and saying, like, every programmer now needs to be a product owner, because you need to be a software architect. Writing code is going to become more and more automated through vibe coding, but the human not only needs to check the code compiles, but is it elegant? Is it
secure.
structured correctly? Is it aligned to the product's ambitions? And so it's reshape the the way we use technology, and I think that's central to technology now. And I, you know, it's been quoted many times that in the 21st century, the number one skill that you should possess is how to get augmented by computer, how to use computer to augment yourself. If you know how to do that, then you're going to get more interesting problems to solve.
Mm,
You're going to get to places faster. You're going to get to your music quicker. You're going to, I think, have a better experience, because the silicon technology is going to augment you in an exponential way. So that's your number one skill, to have, certainly in business. And then the question is, okay, um, what does that mean at a human level now? Um, what does this skill really mean? And then what do I do with the time I get back?
mm. Major construction projects are complex, and construction managers know that every day things don't go as planned. Unfortunately, most don't know what and why until it's too late. The best construction leaders know that the secret to delivering on schedule is for everyone to be planning together, committing to targets, and tracking their performance every day. By combining look aheads, weekly work plans, visual staging diagrams, and daily activity briefings into one multiplayer platform, Aphex is where the world's leading projects are planned and coordinated. Join the largest projects and contractors across Europe, the UK, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand and discover why at aphex.co. In construction, precision matters. Every budget line, every schedule, every document. But too often, project data is scattered across tools and departments, creating risky silos. That's where ArcDesk comes in. ArcDesk is the all in one construction management platform designed to connect your entire project operation, from opportunity through to tender, all the way to handover. With real time dashboards, cost control, scheduling, procurement, and document management in one place, ArcDesk gives you complete visibility and control. Trusted by contractors, subcontractors, and asset owners worldwide, ArcDesk has powered landmark projects from shopping centres to Europe's tallest buildings. If you're ready to reduce risk, protect your margins, and deliver projects with confidence, discover ArcDesk today. Visit arcdesk.com, that's ARCH desk.com, and see how leading firms are building smarter with ArcDesk. Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show. A lot of questions actually come up, yeah. Um, One, you have to make sure, obviously, you don't lose your ability to be able to think for yourself by becoming too reliant on the systems that now exist, the large language models. And I think you touched upon that. Like, you're getting a probabilistic output. You need to still look through these things and give your own human judgment as to what you think is correct or what you're comfortable with issuing, whether it's externally or whatever, or otherwise. Two is about it's about like what skills you need to teach yourself or get comfortable with in order to thrive in what is required or expected from you, like as a human, but also an employee for working for a company, because that's obviously a large part of your livelihood as someone who needs to earn money and pay taxes so the world operates. And then number three, what you do with the time. This is a question I battle with all the time from many angles, because we are saving an incredible amount of time, but where does save time actually go? Like, it goes to spending more time looking at ways to save more time. Does it mean that actually you can now spend time like more with the family or something like that? I think it's very unlikely that people would accept this. Does this save time mean that your clients now put pressure on you, because rather than you taking you 8-9 hours to design something, it's now taking you minutes, a fraction of the time that it used to? So many questions. I don't think that we can answer them in at this current time, or if we did, it would be like we'd just be trying to guess. But I think that summarizes very nicely where we are right now in terms of these tools.
Yes, and I think the conversation. I mean, if we want to bring the broader context with what we're seeing in firms today, the
That would be
broader
good.
context is we huge volatility in, for example, share prices and SaaS companies shares crashing, but also
Yeah.
credit card companies crashing because at some level people are starting to say, wait a minute, we have so many humans employed doing these white collar jobs. If those job goes, then the economy will tank, right?
Yeah.
That kind of very broad, but I think that's them trying to price a future. I would say this is the future,
Yeah.
but in the now, I think very much the question has to be to an engineering firm, um, or a design firm or a contractor. Or if I'm selling, if I have humans delivering an output for a given price, uh, it the easiest thing to do has been I cost those humans in that time. I add a bit of profit. I put a bit of contingency, and that's my price. And it's lazy, but that's how the industry works. And so they can really quickly say, "Wow, if this works, I have a problem because my price is going to come down, and somebody is going to do it for quicker with more technology, and so the price is going to erode, and I might need to factor training, and I might need to factor paying the tech and paying the compute, but the price is going to erode, and we've seen very large companies, time companies, share price coming down, and I think that's okay. But that's because they are thinking cost plus. So you need to be value selling. And to be value selling, you need to be developing value and
Mm.
experience and trust. Sometimes people call that brands because brand at consumer level embodies those concepts. Now, it is inevitable that you will have price offers and you'll have value offers. And ultimately, that's going to be the key skill of any company, white collar company. They're going to position themselves as a price offer. Usually they'll have offshoring centers, and they've figured out how to pay their people less, and how to relentlessly take cost out of whatever they do. And then there'll be value offers. Last I looked, if you have a great night's sleep in a hotel, that's because a set of designs, construction materiality, and service came together to give you a great experience.
Hmm.
And I could make that much cheaper, but the night's sleep would not have been as good. So if you want to sleep and your objective is, I'm going to make that night's sleep cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because I've got AI or whatever other techniques you've got, then you'll end up with tents in the street. And uh, and
Yeah.
that's not a profitable business for anybody, and it's not great for anyone. So I think that's the first thing that we have to say. We are not worried about augmenting the humans. and making it less costly in terms of human time to create the value that we provide. What an engineer provide is a bankable design for a given outcome. So that's the that's the starting point. Actually, you could then argue that things are going to get better, and
That's where my head's
and
going.
and I think things are going to get better because last I looked, the built environment ain't that great. I mean, it's a marvel. We have cities and we've built them with PDF and documents, and it's taken us years. And it's a miracle to have managed to create such complex things with such high price and such number of people and parties involved, and just have used pen, paper, tablets, PDFs, and drawings. And yeah, I'm just saying, try to run BMW on PDFs. I don't think you'd get the same product output. Um, you know, it's remarkable that our industry managed to create the built environment does with the technologies it had. Now you bring a technology that actually can help. That should allow us to create a better built environment. Last I looked in London, we've got plenty of money, but we're short of 1 million homes.
Hmm.
Last I looked, we don't know really how to create net zero building at an affordable cost. So we are slow at delivering the built environment we need, and we don't really need to able to deliver it against the carbon performance we are expecting, and it's unpredictable. The unpredictability actually is a real problem because it means you can't sell outcomes, right? So if I
Mm.
sell you this car is going to have marvelous performance and fantastic fuel consumption, maybe. And last time I bought a car from you, it was 6 months late, twice the price, and didn't have the fuel consumption you promised. I'm not going to buy a car from you again. I'm never going
Hmm.
to listen to you again, right? So we have these three, like, predictability plus solving our fundamental ability of delivering at speed, in quantity, with sustainabilities we need to stop burning the planet. These are like fantastic challenges that we couldn't solve. Now you bring me a new technology and you're telling me choose. Choose to use the technology to make a bad outcome cheaper or fix the outcome we wanted, which is design a better built environment for everyone. I, I think the market will,
Yeah.
there are people that buy cheap things, and there are people that says, well, actually, buying a cheap thing costs me money in the long run. The fuel consumption of my product is too high. The resale value of the product is too low. It's cost me on the life cycle more than I should have spent, and the price I've paid for that is I put my children at risk because the car didn't have good brakes. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Makes yeah, I love what you're saying. In addition to some of the points you already just mentioned, Alan, we also have a major labor shortage, right? So, we need more people in the industry, and hopefully, if you can't get the people, then hopefully the technology can augment what exists, or make people more productive, whereby that gap suddenly starts to shrink, and we can build the infrastructure and buildings and whatnot that's required, so humanity can continue to thrive.
yeah, I think that's right. I think that we're in a blessed industry in the sense that we still live in the physical world, and we are those that create it. And as humans, we do a lot of we get a lot of benefit from having a better natural world and a better built world, and so and if anything, there's a shortage of it. So we're in a good sector from that point of view. We're also a sector that didn't digitize, so we have a lot of work ahead of ourselves. And if and as a global engineering firm, we see obviously that with technology we'll be able to do more for the client. The society decides that it needs a metro system, for example. We need to be able to deploy technology to do that twice as fast and with half the carbon. That's what a Buro Happold engineer will come to work for, and it knows that it creates a legacy, and they'll have the courage and the environment to use technology to solve that problem, twice as well. I can't talk to other sectors. Do we actually need more cars or we need fewer cars?
Mm.
you, the jury is open.
Mm-hmm.
I have a personal choice. Do we need more stuff or less stuff, more time on attention economy distraction or less time? All that is open. But what I do know is 10% of the world economy is creating the spaces where we work, live, and play, and we have a lot of work to do for at least a generation. So we're good. Um, if we go beyond what the engineer looks at, then and participate in, okay, how do we create those spaces? We deploy capital, whether it's a government or private, deploys capital into a capital project delivery program that gets things in place. And I think that's going to change fundamentally. You mentioned we don't have enough humans. We don't have the humans that want to do that kind of work. It's really like when, pre-mechanization of agriculture. We're still using humans at scale to create the built environment. We have no choice. But imagine a world where we don't need to do that. That is a really interesting moment. And, you know, it's fantastic. I really cannot understate it. It is inevitable that we're gonna get to a world that looks like the terraforming of Westworld. The world of construction is like it's an old world. It was the best we could do. That was the only but we are gonna go to terraforming, and this is gonna be a very exciting moment. I thought in my career I had already seen. I started learning English. It's this true story. I started learning English watching Star Trek, and in
What is
Star
your
Trek,
native language?
French.
Okay,
So
yeah,
so so I watched Star Trek on BBC Two. I think it was repeats. There were
yeah.
repeats, and they had this fantastic thing, right? The tricorder, and it could
Uh-huh.
speak every language. Had the knowledge of humanity all into this device, and you thought that's real science fiction.
Yeah.
And then we all have one.
Yeah.
Whether it's an Android or an iPhone, we all have one. And now, you would watch Westworld, and they are creating the built space that is required for the game of life at Westworld, for those that haven't watched the movie or the
Mm-hmm.
series. And like, we're getting to this moment where this is going to become a reality. And, I think recently, Matt wrote the paper
Yeah.
around moving
Matt
back to
Goff.
production.
Yeah,
We,
yeah, yeah.
for all sorts of reasons, we could not build the Empire State Building at the speed we did in in the 1930s. For all sorts
Mhm.
of good reason, cost of risk, cost of capital, regulatory environment. But we're going to flip that. We with the technology we've got, we now have a transition mechanism to get back to a production world where we produce the built environment. And remember that the built environment is created by people we call contractors. They do contracts. They're not
Mhm.
builders, they're contractors. They take a contract, decompose it, etc. No, no surprise that they're great at contracts and paper and documents and PDFs and emails, but actually then, you
Veel,
know,
yeah.
co- co- construction and the production of the spaces we need, not not so good. We're not progressing. And if we might unlock that, remove humans that we don't have, by the way, from dangerous work. Use the increased precision and the radical reduction in cost of information to fully describe what we want to build, and then make it into factories or offsites, and then transport it as an orchestrated process to bring the spaces together. You say, like, this is fantastical. I'm saying it's inevitable.
Mm.
And
You know, yeah. Mhm. Your brain always brings you back to one company that is leading the charge in this space, and we've done on some coverage with them. In fact, our most successful piece of content today at Bricks and Bytes is Goldbeck in Germany, and how this will become or should become the new norm for how construction companies operate in the industry. Uh, Fascinating. Okay, Alan, how do we tie this all back to the role of the CTO of Buro Happold? Like, you're obviously thinking about it a lot, and you've managed to put these thoughts into some logical reasoning. So, how does that then translate into the role? If
I
it's even possible, then maybe
it
it's not possible.
I think it goes back to our framework. First, I said it was about culture and humans, and I think that's really about the humans and helping the people that come to work at Buro Happold to be augmented with technology and for them to have a path to say, what we want to do is, and they figure out and they support it. And in the AI now or technology now world, it's really about a simple view of the human, the culture, um, getting people organized and connecting that with the right purpose and what makes sense for the business. Hence why Mark is so important, is to be really clear to everyone. 3,500 people that want to use technology. That's an incredible energy, but then you have to channel it so that it makes sense for them, for the customer, and also for the platform where they work and the business. Getting that in balance, and um, then the noise disappears because you just want to remove friction and be fast, fast, fast. It's going so fast now, and then
Yeah.
you say, "But I have this inkling. This future looks a bit worried," and so you have to spend 10-15% in really, again, a very broad conversation around: Are we doomed? Or are we
Yeah,
blessed?
yeah, yeah.
And I think as engineers and as participants in the built world, I think we are blessed. We are given a new concrete. We're given a new steel. Remember, last time the built environment really changed was Brunel, right? We got steel and we could go up. We got electricity and we could light our spaces. We
Mm,
now have silicon and we could really start serving or society or customer or communities better. What's there not to like? Be courageous and be confident. And I think those that move forward with that spirit um, have got an immense amount of contribution to make and won't be replaced by any silicon anytime soon.
mm,
The the ones that say, "Oh no, I know how to, I know how to do my job today," etc. They're not going to be able to participate in that um, in that future, and I think it'd be a great shame because they probably have a lot of knowledge and a lot to contribute, and so that that would be how I wrap it up. Be comfortable, be courageous, and we've got a job to do.
mm-hmm. Very good. Absolutely love it. Okay. I don't want to skew too far from the theme of the conversation, and we're not too short. We're not too far from time here. Um, maybe also you could answer. Maybe the answer is the same here, but as a CTO of Buro Happold, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Well,
Yes.
luckily, from a disaster doom scenario point of view, that's really cybersecurity, cyber resilience, etc. And that's really work that Jason leads on. Our CIO's and IT director, and
Hmm.
this kind of doom scenarios should keep people awake, and so ultimately helping him have the conversation with the business to say, look, embrace technology in a safe way. I think that's very, very important. And then immediately that translates into exactly that, maturity, making sure that people are mature. We have a global director for digital risk, May, and she also, having that conversation with the business between embrace it, use it in a safe way. I think the more you do that, the more they understand what it does, what it can do, and therefore use it more safely, and it makes them more comfortable. So I think you need to turn that anxiety into safety, and that's an immediate one. I think the what should keep every CEO and CTO awake is a little bit further is to say like, okay, really we are entering an era where the intellectual capital of the firm is going to become more and more broadly available to the rest of the firm, right? If you
Mm.
think about, we are a knowledge firm. When people say, "Oh, this industry is based on people and on human," what they mean is the knowledge that is in the humans
Hmm.
is what matters, and it is. And so, the large language model have machine learned every Bible there is, right?
Yeah.
Every manual there are, every mathematics text there are. What they've not mined is the
Your
knowledge.
brain.
Is exactly the tacit and explicit knowledge of of all the humans that are building, designing, and creating the built environment. So now the question is, um, how do we bring this to bear? How do we put this into knowledge systems so that the agents that we can buy and that can increasingly understand human, and you can prompt them and they then configure themselves, they write code when it needs to be heuristics, all that's happening, that layer happens. But now how do you make these humans built environment workers with the IP of your firm? And how you do that at speed? Because you know, every time somebody leaves Buro Happold, then that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge leaves. No,
Mm-hmm.
I want it to forever stay within Buro Happold. Every time we work on a project, we should be able to capture that knowledge and make it available to all the other humans that work into Buro Happold. I think that as a Buro Happold person, we need to be thinking about that. As a society, we need to think about, wait a minute, you're trapping this knowledge. Why is it not available to others?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's very question created the patent system. If you create an invention, we give you 45 years, you can exploit it commercially, and after that's for the benefit of society. Okay, that 45 years or 25 years, depend the jurisdiction, um, was a conversation, right? Then something you figured out how much can you commercially exploit it, or do you give it to society? Um, are there pieces of knowledge that you never be able to put into these knowledge systems if you just build it yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Is there collective knowledge that, if you say, well, what's a great school? What makes a great school? And then every school in the UK, one architectural firm designs one per year. They put them into their knowledge system, and after 20 years, they have 20 schools. And we have hundreds of architects, each having 20 schools. We'll never know what makes a great school.
Yeah.
Right. So you have those tensions that I think we have to ask ourselves, um, are we going to miss out because it's siloed between firms? Are we going to miss out because the firms are not going to make this knowledge useful for the rest of their workers? What's the nice size of firm? Is there going to be a firm that has so much knowledge that nobody else can design a good school anymore because they're the one that have done all those schools? That's the kind of really, I think, important questions that a CEO needs to ask itself and the prime minister needs to ask themselves.
Yeah, I love it. I was actually thinking about this, knowledge transfer. I've had you on this knowledge transfer because this is a conversation that keeps coming up and people are worried about it. Um, have you trialed, implemented, thought about how that could actually practically be done?
Yes, I think everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does. And it starts with very simple things. Like, I have a procedure on how to run a project. I want an agent, and I ask the agent, tell me what I should do now. And they'll look and say, oh, you're starting the project, Alain. You should open it into our systems. Do you want us to do that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of actually procedural how things get done here that you can put into systems, and these horizontal systems already happen. And they're,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's I think whether it's working in an LLM, but the input window has become so big, you just put, like in Perplexity, you can put really big input window, or do you build a graph database, or you build a RAG, or do you build a graph RAG? They've got lots of lots of acronyms to help us here. Um, but I think everybody is working on this and trying to figure it out and make it work. The great thing is you make it work on simple things first, like, how do I write a proposal? What's my tool of choice? How do I rewrite the CV of Owen for this project based on the client requirement? Poof, it rewrites your CV. It's like we you do it you do that you do that day in day out. Um, I think where the frontier models are is really interesting. That you saw, for example, only last week, Autodesk invest $200 million into Faily's startup, and so
Yeah.
you're going to say, right, okay, so these large language model, we already know that they work really well on explicit textual knowledge. Great, fantastic, and Gaussian splatting works really well on raycasting and creating pixels out of text. Great, we get that. But can it do a floor plate? No. It's never ingested a floor plate. So it doesn't understand the physical well. So physical AI, be it for robots, be it for topology, this is a brand new world. And one of the barriers to construction using AI to other things than just finding what's missing in the drawing that was in the spec, or the clause that you should reject in your contract, is understanding the built world. And it's really interesting that as soon as you're trying to semantically embed the built world learnings of how you design or what works, we don't yet have the frontier models that support that. And so, I'm opening now something completely different and something technically deep, but the semantics of and models with emergent properties and foundational models for the built world, that's probably the next frontier that
Yep.
we're going to need to see emerge. And we're still absorbing the frontier models that understand tokens. We are absorbing agentic AI, which is using some of those large language model properties with a bit of memory to be able to coherently execute a task, then call a heuristic code that execute a function and then bring it back and then takes it on. So we're seeing all that, but none of that works on the built world yet.
Yeah, we're in the early innings of that,
Early.
and I still think it's fascinating to think about. Some of the things that we heard, like the back end of last year, was that building the foundational models for the built world is just so expensive that, like, funding a startup from within like the construction tech AEC technology industry is tricky because they need so much capital in order to do it. So does that open up the opportunity for the we call them the foundational out of the box large language models, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, etc., to then have their bite of the cherry at the industry?
When Jan LeCun leaves Meta to say LLMs have reached their maximum, it's very, very clear. The guy says, to understand physical world, we're going to need to approach it differently, right? And we talk about data availability, data world, but also emergent properties. And don't expect models to be able to do things that and have emergent properties on things that have not been exposed to, or there hasn't been enough data on. So if I then express it in Faily's world, they're trying to understand space. Where are the faces, the geometry? They're understanding topology. In Cosmos and the like, they're trying to understand the robotics, physics, understanding between something pushing on the wall and how the wall reacts, right? You, as a human, understand this instinctively. You also instinctively understand the physics that things don't stay in space. They drop, there is gravity.
Newtonian physics, yeah?
And so you've got these kind of physical AI fundamentals that are not in place. And then once you've got those in place, then you start, like last I saw, neither Tesla or Waymo are finding it that easy to machine learn the roads and the rules of the
London
roads,
specifically.
and at the moment now, and they call that the data wall, and we're seeing new world models approach and JEPA approaches to go through the data wall, and the mathematics improve and the methodologies improve, but we are astounded by the properties of large language models that arose really from one seminal paper in 2017, Attention is All You Need, which is a mathematical trick with a nice with a nice
Yeah.
or mathematical tricks, but a mathematical technique with a beautiful name, the
Mhm.
attention layer.
Mhm.
And we haven't had another breakthrough like this yet for the physical world, and we're gonna need to find it. Once we've got that, and that has a lot of money behind it, because robots can't roam the space without it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Cars can't drive around without it. Reasoning on layouts doesn't happen without it. So understanding 3D space like a 3-year-old understand, we can't machine learn yet. So that's going to be the next frontier. And once the 3-year-old level has been reached, the physics is understood, we can push on a wall, we can open a door, then we're going to be, but what does the designer do? I'm creating a system within a system that allows people to move, or I'm trying to create meeting rooms that have power, that are connected to risers that go up and down in building that are alongside cores. What instinctively comes to an architect or an urban planner or a policymaker in a city, all those concepts will then need to be added to those frontier models. And then you'll ask yourself the question, do I actually want to machine learn what is in place? I mean, you
Mm.
machine learn Paris, you machine learning Haussmann. So do you think that Haussmann theory of urban design is the one that you want? Or you machine learn Barcelona and you get city squares. You get something
Mhm.
else. You go and machine learn District 1 in Ho Chi Minh City, you'll have a different society. So
Mhm.
how explicit is urbanism and architecture
Mhm.
before I've got really an augmentation of architecture? We've gone way past our hour now, but I think that, that's why it's useful to have technology now to say, guys, I know that there are a lot of things that don't work yet, and we're going to have a lot of fun in the future. It's coming exponentially, inevitably, but let's take the small steps now. Kind of like, if you went to work in the early 90s and you didn't have a PC on your desk, you say, I don't like to work here.
Yeah.
No, but in my first job, my second job, my first job, I was, a researcher at university. We were connected to mainframes. We had our Sun Sparks. It was nice. And then, I explicitly didn't take one of the job offers because I went into their office and they had VT100s all over. And whereas the other ones, they had Macs and Sun Sparks, and I could see that
Oh.
we, we were going to have fun there. Imagine what I'm like thinking of every day is, how does the talent choose where to work? And Buro Happold has to be the place where talent comes and choose to work.
Yeah, you're opening up a whole different thing. Hey, Alain, man, well, I think we need to stop because my brain is like gone beyond fried at this point. But so much wisdom in here. Um, Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to this back a few times to grasp everything. I get the gist of what you were saying, and I think that there's a lot of thought-provoking stuff that people should be thinking about. I will also get this out very quickly because it's like time is of the essence in today's age when you're doing these kind of discussions. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom, and I feel like we need to do this again very soon.
9 weeks.
We'll do it at week 18 and see where we were right
Week
or wrong.
18, that's the date. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Alain, thank you.